And we were picking people out of trees, off the rooftops, out of the water.
Refrigerators, washer dryer, one of the TVs, cabinets.
And thousands of families, homes and schools and churches, small businesses were damaged, as well as closing I-5 for 5 days.
We have 29 dairy farms at the time in the valley, and of those, I think I counted about 16 that were flooded in one way or another. We had 5 farms that were essentially wiped out. 2 of them lost all of their cows.
Flooding is the #1 cost to the federal government in disasters.
Now, there's 2 aspects to flood hazards. One is, where's the water going to go? How much water will go where, how fast? And the other, of course, is like, well, what's there when the water gets there? And that's the question about how do you essentially manage the human dimension of the equation in terms of where we build things, how we develop, what kind of infrastructure we put at risk.
After one of these catastrophic storms, everybody has a theory. Everybody has a theory on why this happened.
About a third of that field was covered with logs and various debris, and the silt in some places was about 2 feet deep. When I was about 6 or 8, Longbill finished logging in the area, the old growth, and without replanting, when it rained hard, the river would go up rapidly and down rapidly. And as things grew back and grew up, there was a difference. The river would not go up as fast, and it would stay higher for a longer period of time and stay medium for a much longer period of time. Basically, in the last 30 years, they've re-logged everything that Longbill logged over however many years. And the river, again, is going up and down faster than it used to. People would probably tell me I'm wrong, but I look at the river about every day.
Something like 1,700 landslides were documented in that one event. That's a lot of timber and sediment getting into the rivers, and it's no mystery that that caused flooding issues downstream. If you take a glass of water and you fill it up to just shy of the top, and then you dump a fistful of dirt into it, what's going to happen? Well, the water's going to flow out over the top of the glass. A river's no different.
There's still some conversation to be had on what is the flow that came from up there.
What you have in the Willapa Hills area is an area that's naturally very prone to landsliding because it has very deeply weathered rock, so there's not a lot of strength in the rock itself. So one of the reasons why we have seen so many landslides in that area was the changes in the root strength on the hillsides through aggressively harvesting timber off most of the watershed over about a 10 or 15 year period. In my research group around the Northwest, we've basically found a roughly 3 to 9-fold increase in the rate of landsliding as a result of timber harvesting.
People can point to a number of different areas as far as what contributed, but the main thing was the water.
It really is kind of almost off the charts for what we thought could happen. In that 1990 to 2009 timeframe, we saw floods of record primarily in Western Washington.
Well, I'm not going to get into whether there's global warming or anything, but it's factual. If you look at the storms, the systems, the severity across this country of the natural events that are occurring, they are more frequent.
So for the folks that say, oh, it's a myth, okay, fine. Here's the data. In the Chehalis Basin, those 5 floods that are outside the 100-year flood are real hard numbers. Governor Inslee asked me this. He said, how come when I talk to all you farmers about climate change, y'all do this? And I said, Governor, I don't get up in the morning and start my tractor and go, oh shoot, I might have just killed a polar bear 10 years from now. I can't get too wrapped up in who's to blame.
The biggest increases in the country are in the Northwest and in the Northeast. There's very few places that show a decrease. Basically everybody's seeing more rain in the future. What we know of as a 100-year event today is going to happen more often. It's just that warmer air holds more water, It's warmer in the future, so we can pull more water into those storms, even if they're the same exact storms we've seen in the past. By the end of the century, it's going to be about 5.5 to 9 degrees warmer than what we were seeing in the 1980s.
Chehalis Basin, it's rain-fed, and what that means is that we have lots of water in the winter and very little water in the summer. This river, already warm, planning to get warmer.
There has been 2 big fish kills since the '07 storm from low flows, high temperature.
Our summer flows may get a whole lot lower. Our winter flows may get a whole lot bigger.
Well, there's really 3 factors that climate change influences to make flooding worse in the future. One is sea level rise. The other is snowpack. Warmer temperatures means less snow. When you got a storm event, more of that's falling as rain and more of it's ending up in your river. It's really the third that drives flooding in the Chehalis, which is the change in the intensity of heavy rain events. The range is in the sort of 20% increase by the end of the century.
When you think about global warming and other issues that are in front of us, we've got to do something. We just cannot let this happen again.
So the Army Corps of Engineers started looking in the Chehalis Basin at water retention back in the 1930s.
They've been talking about it since the flood of the 30s. The Corps did a bunch of studies and didn't do anything.
There have been more than a dozen sites that have been assessed at one time or another. All of those have not panned out because they couldn't pass a cost-benefit test. The site that does is the site that's currently under evaluation above PL.
I think there's been over 800 studies on the Chehalis River since 1933.
There was a group formed in Chehalis, it was called One Voice, and it was people that wanted a solution to the flooding, basically supporting a dam.
They got together. Their very first option to stop the flooding was build a dam.
They reacted to say, we've got a fishery in decline and now you're talking about putting a dam on a river and that will make the fish problem even worse.
Finally, the governor and legislators came together and said, you know what guys, this isn't working. We need to bring those two together and try to find a solution that satisfies all parties involved.
The governor established a more formal work group which clearly identified our relationship and recognized our legal status as a treaty tribe to the region.
The idea was to bring interests from a variety of different perspectives.
And our job is to think about this valley for everybody in it. Don't dump on the guy downstream.
One of the first things that they did to get the tribes to participate in that is that we will spend an equal amount on aquatic species restoration, so that it'll be a dual project.
So the Chehalis Basin strategy refers to an approach that is really a suite of several different types of actions. And since we're focused primarily on reducing flood damage and improving habitat for aquatic species, we really break those suites of actions down into those 2 large buckets. On the flood damage reduction side is a suite of actions that range from the very small up to the very large. Things like levee improvements on up to the largest proposed action in the strategy is a proposed flood retention structure that would hold back 65,000 acre-feet of floodwaters.
It's a logging community. There's the people that generational that live here and work here as loggers. There's people that grew up here and leave, never come back. And then there's the retirees that come through. I'm a lucky man to live here. By building the dam and it breaching, then it would flood PL. So it's the only time the PL would have damage would be from putting that dam in here. Otherwise, we don't, the only flooding that occurs is from Stowe Creek. We've been told over the years that they're gonna make it so much greater, we're gonna have a reservoir and we can have recreation. We have the recreation here already. This is one of the last free-flowing rivers in the state and it needs to stay that way.
I ain't gonna sell it and I ain't gonna give it away. Just gonna keep it until Judgment Day.
It's being proposed because after the 2007 flood, people in Lewis County wanted something to happen, anything. If you stacked them up end to end, you're going to be between 5 and 10 feet of technical documents. And that's very difficult for the general public to understand. The county has this culture of fighting outside interference. They don't want big government telling them where a floodplain is, and because what that basically does then is it reduces property value. You want to see the land valued as much as possible to get the maximum possible property tax from it.
To control the water is a good thing. You know, we see in Chehalis what happens every day when we have floods. And they keep building up, and all they're doing is shoving the water one way or the other. Well, if we can control that water, all of us are much better off.
I'm not a fan of the dam because I think it's a temporary fix, and we're the only river around here without a dam on it. We got some native, beautiful fish in this country. I mean, these steelhead are native, and their shoulders are 3 times wider than a hatchery, and salmon come up, and we can't even catch the Chinook salmon now, and they've got it closed off down, and I think it's closed completely now. Get our fishery back, and it's starting to come back. And now they're gonna take it away again. It's like,
Inbound on marker 1. Here we're going around the corner, and you have to imagine a truck coming around the corner.
Pick up, empty low boy, headed in the river road.
In January of 2018, the road to our right down here, the hillside, slid down. The east end of the dam is going to be right here on this spot. You're looking at it here. It goes across the river to my corner of my property over that way. So we're now on the Pinesco Tree Farm. My father bought the property in 1937. I inherited the property when my father passed away. I took over. Yeah, I've been attached to the property for 80 years. There's a lot of memories here. When you get older, the memories start fading, and it's more the work you put in. I want to be able to pass this tree farm on to my children and grandchildren. In Lewis County, the people that own tree farms, they have that opportunity to work in the woods on their own property and have that as a legacy to pass on to their family. The dam will be at a 45-degree angle from this west point over to the northeast point on that hill. So this would be under 200 feet of water here, where we're standing right now. But we're hoping that the dam won't be built here.
So this project is the Chehalis River Flood Reduction Project, and it's comprised of 2 major components. One is a water retention facility. The other piece of this project is the airport levee improvements, in which the airport levee would need to be raised to protect not only the airport, but some of the Chehalis area that would be protected by that levee, and the freeway. From an economic standpoint, yes, the target definitely is the Twin Cities area, and they derive the most benefit from it. That with this facility and the levee, we would have about a 10-foot gauge reduction in the Doty Dryad area, and then a little over 1 foot down in the Mellon Street, Centralia, Chehalis area. A 1 foot reduction in inundation makes a huge difference in damage avoided.
When you lived in Chehalis like I have, and have had your house flooded with 3 feet of water, lowering it to 1.5 feet of water in your house doesn't accomplish a whole heck of a lot. Your house is still flooded. There's houses in Centralia that were flooded with 8 feet of water.
It's not going to eliminate flooding, but it will take the top off and move it a week, 2 weeks, let it out slow after the flood is gone.
I think a lot of people come into this with a preconceived notion about what a dam is, which is why I keep saying water retention facility.
A flood retention expandable. It's not a dam. And so, well, if it's a big wall of concrete in the middle of a river, that to me suggests dam.
We called it a water retention facility because of the opposition to dams.
So this is much more like what you'd see as a concrete culvert or bridge that are openings in the bottom of the facility that the river runs right through most of the time. Inside of the facility, there are floodgates that would then restrict the flow as needed, which would build a reservoir behind it during a flood operation. It's about a 30-day duration between the time when the floodgates would actually engage and the time that the full reservoir would be drawn down.
And the proposal is that it be used for only floods above what the hydrologists model as the 10-year flood.
It is also potentially an expandable version too, because if floods get worse and we need to keep more water back, we would have to make it higher.
The foundation itself would be built big enough that this could be raised in the future if need be. And again, that has a lot to do with climate change.
As the world changes, you have to adapt to it. But dams are complex, and they usually come with a lot of costs. So.
I don't see the value in actually spending that much money. I think there's many other things we could spend money on in the county.
There's an open question at this point as to where the money will come from to construct and operate that facility.
So we've been talking to our federal partners about, can you help us out with this? The maintenance can be funded through a tax of those folks who are benefiting from it.
The vegetation behind the structure in the eventual reservoir area probably wouldn't be so green and lush all the time.
There's going to be a pretty substantial change to the riparian, the trees on the sides of the rivers here. The trees are really important for shade in the summer, and so you take away that natural ability of the river to cool itself.
If you change the vegetation on the hillsides, you can change the rate landslides are happening off the terrain. There can be responses downstream to the transport of that sediment.
Right now, it's really hard to imagine how the proposed dam could mitigate for impacts. Fish and dams don't coexist. It doesn't happen. Runs significantly decline, the impacts are just too great.
This down here is a trap and haul fish passage facility, so when the gates would restrict fish passage, fish could be collected here and actually driven around and put into the reservoir.
Here's a prime example of why we don't want to have dams in this system. We need a place for these fish to spawn and have a sanctuary to be left alone.
The run-of-the-river design is as sensitive as you could possibly be given a dam. You know, the old saying about what does a fish say?